paracosms and inner worlds, they're so similar. They must be the same. No, they are not the same. I get a lot of comments when I talk about my inner world saying, that's like a paracosm. Maybe I have DID. Maybe I don't have maladaptive daydreaming and I just have DID. I'm going to try and explain to you the difference between my paracosm and my inner world to try and help you work out the difference, and so you can understand how they most definitely are not the same. Paracosm does not equal inner world. Right, so a paracosm. If you would like to know the definition of a paracosm, I have a video. You can click it up here. Maybe it's on this side. I never know what side. One of them, click on the video and watch that. But in short, a paracosm is basically a world where a maladaptive daydreamer daydreams in. It's a world that they create in their mind, and that's where they go to daydream. It's where all of their paras or characters live. It's a whole made-up universe, basically. The same like the Harry Potter universe is like J.K. Rowling's paracosm, but not quite the same, because I don't know if she's a maladaptive daydreamer. She might be, I don't know, but it's a bit like that. It's a whole made-up universe that is in the mind of the maladaptive daydreamer. Yes, a paracosm is extremely realistic and detailed. I can't even... When I think about my paracosm, it's like I'm thinking about memories from this reality. Like, my paracosm is so detailed, and there are so many like little things that, like hundreds of little things that I somehow are able to remember and keep up in here that are details of my paracosm, and like inside jokes that would only make sense in my paracosm, and things that exist in my paracosm that don't exist in here. It is extremely detailed, but I seem to only have access to those kinds of memories when I'm actually actively daydreaming in my paracosm. I do a video where I talk about memory blocks, so I only have... Sometimes when I'm not actively daydreaming, I can't actually remember many details about my paracosm and my daydreams, which is really weird. I actually actively have to be daydreaming and in my paracosm to remember a lot of those little details. However, a paracosm is something I can switch off. If I am very intensely daydreaming and in my paracosm and somebody calls my name and my attention needs to be back in this reality, yes, there are times where this can be difficult and annoying and a little hard to stay focused in this reality, but I am able to come back into this reality and focus on what is happening. I'm able to be snapped out of it, basically. Now, if we look at inner worlds, an inner world is exactly the same as this reality. I don't mean exactly the same. So what I mean is the way you experience the inner world is exactly the same as the way you experience this reality. So when I go into my inner world, it isn't the same as if I am going into my paracosm, because in my inner world, I can touch things, I can smell things, I can feel things. And what I experience in my inner world is exactly the way I would experience it as if it would happen in this reality. Everything is the same. My sensations and how I sense things and how I like perceive things are the same. I can touch a leaf and it be the same as if I touched a leaf in this reality. It's definitely more realistic in that sense, where I can see things very clearly when I'm in my inner world. But when I'm in my paracosm, things are a bit blurry. It's very hard for me to sometimes look at something in very very small details. I know that I said that there are lots of details in my paracosm. There are, but sometimes it's like it's foggy and it's not. It's almost like I am dissociating, and it's not quite the same as this reality because you're imagining it all. It's all in your mind, you know, you're not physically seeing this stuff. Whereas in my inner world, I'm physically, like, actually seeing things and feeling things and smelling things. Another thing that's different is memory. So when I come back into this reality, I can remember things as if they happened in this reality. Like I talked about before, when I remember things from my paracosm, sometimes that's difficult. I have to actively be daydreaming for me to have the full memory, where some things are left out when I try and remember things from my paracosm because I can't remember things as clearly. When I'm remembering things from my inner world, it's very clear. It's like I'm remembering it from this world. Something I do want to mention though is I do talk about how paracosms aren't as realistic as inner worlds. That is correct. However, I do find the emotions I feel in both my paracosm and my inner world are exactly the same. So if an event happens in my paracosm and I feel all of the emotions that I feel in my paracosm, those emotions stick with me the same way as if an event happened in my inner world. Something traumatic can happen in my paracosm and I can feel upset and hurt and scared the same way as if that same event happened in my inner world and I like sensed it all in my inner world. That's another thing that I do want to mention. I don't want to downplay how hard dealing with events that happen in a paracosm can be. And that's something that I find frustrating about paracosms, is that events can happen, but I can't quite like grab hold of that memory. It's like I have all of those emotions from something that happened in my paracosm, but I can't quite grab what actually happened, if that makes sense, because it's so foggy sometimes, especially if I've come out of the paracosm and I'm not actively daydreaming. Whereas in my inner world, I have a clear memory of what happened and I'm able to actually grab hold of that memory, if that makes sense. Unless I'm dissociating from a really traumatic event that happened in my inner world, because that does happen. I hope this clears things up about the differences between paracosms and inner worlds. They are definitely very different. They have similarities, but they are definitely very different. Thank you for watching. Anyway, goodbye.